50 Cent, from the streets to a global empire. There are some stories that sound too unbelievable to be true. A kid grows up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in America. He loses his mother when he's still young. He enters a world where survival comes before dreams. He gets shot 9 times and somehow lives. His music career nearly collapses before it even begins. And then, against all odds, he becomes one of the biggest rappers in the world. This is the story of Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent. But before the fame, before the money, before the million-dollar deals, there was just a kid from Queens trying to survive. 50 Cent was born on July 6, 1975, in Queens, New York. He was raised by his mother, Sabrina, who worked as a drug dealer. She was his entire world. But when Curtis was only 8 years old, everything changed. His mother was killed in a mysterious fire. Curtis was left without the person who had raised him. He was still a child. And suddenly, he had to grow up. He was raised by his grandparents, but the pain of losing his mother never completely disappeared. Instead of having a normal childhood, Curtis found himself surrounded by the harsh realities of the streets. By his teenage years, he was involved in drug dealing. The streets offered him money. But they also offered danger. Curtis eventually discovered something else, a microphone. He started writing rhymes and developing a style that was direct, aggressive, and brutally honest. He wasn't trying to sound perfect. He was telling the truth as he knew it. And people noticed. In the late 1990s, 50 Cent began making a name for himself in New York's underground rap scene. His breakthrough seemed close when he was discovered by legendary producer Jam Master Jay. But just as his career was beginning to take shape, tragedy struck again. In May 2000, 50 Cent was shot 9 times outside his grandmother's house in Queens. 9 times. He was hit in the hand, arm, hip, legs, chest, and face. Most people would have seen that moment as the end. 50 Cent saw it differently. He survived. And that survival changed him. His voice was affected by the shooting, and his music career was suddenly uncertain. Record labels became hesitant to work with him. But Curtis Jackson refused to disappear. He went back to work. He began recording music independently and eventually released mixtapes that spread through the streets like wildfire. One of the most important was Guess Who's Back. The music caught the attention of Eminem and Dr. Dre. Biggest names in hip-hop. In 2002, Eminem signed 50 Cent to his label, Shady Records, with Dr. Dre's Aftermath Entertainment also involved. Then came the album that changed everything, Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Released in 2003, the album exploded. Its lead single, In Da Club, became a massive hit. 50 Cent wasn't just another rapper anymore. He was a superstar. The album sold millions of copies and established him as one of the biggest names in music. But what made 50 different was his story. He wasn't pretending to know struggle. He had lived it. Every scar, every loss, every rejection had become part of his identity. And the world wanted to hear it. 50 Cent's success continued. He released more albums, toured around the world, appeared in movies, and built a business empire outside music. He founded G-Unit and helped launch the careers of artists including Lloyd Banks and Young Buck. But perhaps one of the smartest things 50 Cent ever did was understand that music wasn't going to last forever. He started thinking bigger. He entered the business world. His investment in vitamin water became legendary after Coca-Cola acquired Glasseo, the company behind the drink. The exact details of his personal payout have been widely discussed, but the bigger lesson was obvious. 50 Cent wasn't only selling music. He was building a brand. He understood something many artists didn't. Fame can disappear, but ownership can last. He continued investing, producing television shows, acting in films, and developing businesses. And then came another chapter that nobody expected. Television. 50 Cent became the executive producer of Power, the hit crime drama that premiered in 2014. The show became a major success and opened the door to an even larger television career. The rapper who once struggled to get a record deal was now creating shows watched by millions. But perhaps the most powerful part of 50 Cent's story isn't the money. It's the mentality. He came from a world where tomorrow was never guaranteed. He lost his mother. He survived being shot 9 times. He was rejected by the music industry. And yet every time life tried to knock him down, he found another way forward. That's what makes his story emotional. Because 50 Cent didn't start with everything. He started with almost nothing. He had no guarantee that his dreams would come true. He simply refused to stop chasing them. There were mistakes along the way. There were controversies, conflicts, financial problems, and moments when his career seemed to be slowing down. But he kept reinventing himself. Rapper, entrepreneur, actor, producer, businessman, and ultimately, a man who turned his survival story into an empire. When you look at 50 Cent today, it's easy to see the success. The expensive cars, the mansions, the businesses, the celebrity lifestyle. But sometimes we forget the kid behind all of it. The kid who lost his mother. The teenager who grew up surrounded by danger. The young man who was shot 9 times and somehow got back on his feet. That's the part of the story that matters. Because success isn't always about where you start. Sometimes it's about how many times life tries to destroy you, and how many times you decide to stand back up. 50 Cent once built his career around the idea of risking everything to achieve something greater. And whether you love his music or not, there's something undeniable about his journey. He survived what could have ended his life. He turned pain into music. He turned music into influence. And he turned influence into business. His story is proof that sometimes your greatest strength is born from the moments that were supposed to break you. The world may remember 50 Cent for the hits. For In Da Club. For G-Unit. For the movies. For power. For the millions. But behind all of that is Curtis Jackson, a man who learned very early that life doesn't promise you an easy road. Sometimes you have to create your own. And maybe that's the biggest lesson from his story. You don't have to come from a perfect beginning to build an extraordinary ending. Sometimes all you need is the courage to keep going when everything tells you to quit. And 50 Cent, he kept going.